Yes, that's a different intro. That's the 80s funk intro, and so that means this is a retro show. It means we're going to talk about something at least somewhat retro in nature. Should have never gave that boy GarageBand, because now I can make my own songs, and that's a sampling of my 80s funk writing abilities. I'm Justin Perkins, and this is Talk Junkie. And like I said, this is a retro show. I'll start this one off with a little story. My wife and I took a weekend away together. We have two kids. At this time this is recorded, a 21-year-old and a 9-year-old. We've been together, married, together basically 20 years. I know the math doesn't work out on that first kid. Apparently she was just born a year old. I don't know. But in those 20 years, this was the third time we'd ever went somewhere overnight, as far as something like, just a weekend for us. It's like the third time in 20 years. So it's fun to make those things really fun and special when we do get to do them. I love VHS. My son, the 9-year-old, loves VHS. So we're constantly on the lookout for VHS, collecting and looking. My wife and I, while on vacation, I drug her into a Goodwill, which I usually do anytime I go somewhere, and I'm digging through, and as I'm going through the VHS, I find a copy of my wife's favorite 80s movie, Mannequin. And I get the movie, and Saturday night, the cabin we're staying in, once we got to a Brazilian restaurant, eat, we come back, and we're going to spend the rest of the evening in the cabin. Weather was not great. And the cabin has an old-style TV in the corner with a VCR built in. So our Saturday night, my wife and I watched Mannequin on VHS. And it was fun. It's something... It's a movie she really enjoyed growing up as a very young girl. It was one of her favorite movies. And I like the movie. It's a pretty solid movie. It's, to be an 80s movie. 80s movies are unique and special. Her first comment upon putting the cassette in and it hitting play was, the picture quality is so bad. I kind of have a different reaction to that. The picture quality isn't great, not compared to high-def, Blu-ray, 4K, blah, blah, blah. But there's a warmth to that picture. There's a warmth to the way the images look and to how video is different on VHS as compared to digital or DVD. When they first made the transition from VHS to DVD, I was completely in. Like everybody else, I'm sure. The convenience of DVD and just hitting play and starting from different sections, the better picture quality, it was an amazing advancement. And I don't knock it in any way. But as I've gotten older, I've developed much more fondness for the VHS. I don't actually keep really that many DVDs. My son has some. I really don't have many. I don't keep a ton of VHS. I've got one VCR left, and I'm waiting for it to go kaput. But as I've gotten older and I go back and watch these, I watch most of my movies digitally. I don't have room for a huge collection, and there's so many things I'm probably only going to watch once, or just watch sporadically, very sporadically, or with a large number of years in between it. So digital is a much easier way to manage a movie collection. But the physical, as far as VHS went, when I watch a VHS, it just has a feeling that the other formats don't give me. And its quality and the tracking adjustment at the beginning when your VCR is trying to get everything lined up, I don't know. It has a warmth and a color and a feeling that I don't get from other from other formats. When I was growing up here in Eastern Kentucky, at a very young age, my neighbors had a video store. If I'm not mistaken, I don't remember what it's called. They were Vance's, and they had a business called Vance's Carpet, so it could be Vance's Video. I don't remember. But if I'm not mistaken, at that point, we may have still been renting a VCR. Not sure. But I remember that movie store from a very young age, and getting Rambo at a very young age. One of my favorite movie rentals of all time, First Blood, and First Blood Part 2. I remember my cousin, who was much older and babysitted me. Her name was Tammy. I remember her. She used to work at a gas station in the town we're from, or I guess outside the city, outside the town we're from. But I would go there and obviously get Rambo. I can remember that. But my big memories when it comes to movie rentals when I was younger is Video Solution and Movies and Munches. Our two local video stores. My stepfather at the time was very close to the guy that owned Movies and Munches. And he gave us movie posters. He was super nice to us. And it was, by that point, by the time I was going to Movies and Munches and Video Solution on a regular basis, like, movies had overtaken my life in a lot of ways. Like, I was very obsessed with movies, especially martial arts movies, action movies, things of that nature. And even though, coming into the early 90s, movies, VHS was at a full swing in the 80s. I mean, there were just constant B-movie releases and all these movie releases on VHS. VHS was the king of the format when I was younger. And even as DVD started to come in, I still received VHS for presents, and we still rented them when we went to the store. That was my Christmas list every year up until probably 16 or 17. Included at least one movie, but around 10 to 13 or 14, it was almost all movies. Anything I could get with Bruce Lee, anything I could get with the word ninja on it, any type of movie. And I was just a collector in a lot of ways, but I loved movies. We were constantly trying to film and make our own movies at home. My friend Lance and I really got into it, from scene choreography and fight scene choreography to even getting the younger kids to help with costumes, like just filming snippets of movies. I'd kill to have those things back. My first video camera was probably my favorite gift up to that point, and I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. But everything we recorded ended up on VHS. Got transferred either through the first camera, which was a black and white camera that actually plugged into your VCR and you had to record via tape. It didn't have an internal recording mechanism. And then the second camera, took the little mini cassettes, but they ended up being put over onto VHS, and I ended up with this massive collection of VHS and DVD, which unfortunately I lost over the years. But that feel of sitting down and putting in a movie on VHS is something I still feel today. It almost seems like with DVD, but especially with digital, that you're not in the moment of the movie. I'm not. Don't get me wrong, I'll enjoy movies and sit down and watch them, but it seems so easy to pause and walk away, to stop and start over, to watch some now and then watch some later. But when you were watching a rented DVD that had to go back the next day or the day after, and You couldn't skip around, and it felt like a commitment. You sit down, you put in the VHS, you hit play, and you started from the beginning, no skipping chapters, and you sat down and you watched it in one sitting, and it was a very big commitment in a lot of ways. And box art with VHS, especially in the mid to late 80s, was so inaccurate and so over the top that you didn't know what you were watching a lot of times, especially with B movies until you got it. They put so much work, and a lot of these artists that did box art in the 80s are huge celebrities, especially then, and their work is highly coveted, and they done a really good job. But the box art often didn't reflect the actual movie's quality. But you're committed at this point, and to sit down and feel that, and to love that. Other movie stores came and went in my local town. We had a rental store, I think maybe A Plus Rental or something like that, and they rented movies. We have a store right now that it's only DVD. Obviously, everybody made that switch, and to me, that was the beginning of the death of the movie store. Not intentionally, or not necessarily in a bad way, because I like DVD. I love special features, so even though I may want something on video, if it's something I really care about and they come out with a really good DVD edition with some extras and stuff, I'm going to want that as well. But I think the reason it led to this is it was just the progression from video to DVD was kind of slow, but once DVD hit, digital came a little more rapidly than DVD had come against VHS, but also the mentality and the demand and the ease and the instant gratification started to become more and more prevalent and kind of killed it. The same way that, in a lot of ways, it seems like the movie-going experience at the theaters is kind of dead. I think there's a lot of different factors to that, but, I'm guilty of that sometimes. But I hung with those two big, or two local video stores till they both went out. I remember buying movies from Video Solution when they went out of business. And I remember how the flea markets and vendors areas flooded with VHS after a lot of the video stores and stuff started closing down. I didn't have, we didn't have a local Blockbuster or anything of that nature, so I didn't have that experience. A lot of times, especially early on, there were only one or two copies of movies in these local video stores, and look, it got to where a lot of places, like the little gas station down below my house, after the two big movie stores had went away pretty much, or two bigger, these things, not like these were locally owned businesses, but when those two had went away, they opened up a movie, and no new movies, all old movies, but the experience of going to a movie store and renting a movie is indescribable to my kids, or at least to my son. My daughter did experience it to some degree, but nowhere near like my wife and I did. It made the movie special. It made the experience special. And I don't know why it doesn't seem as special when we sit down and watch Christmas Vacation now, my wife and I, and my kids, if you could get them to sit down. But my wife and I to sit down and watch that as it felt when I would watch that with my family when I was younger. Because we went to the video store, we rented it, we brought it back. But this past year, I sat down by myself out in my little workshop building and watched A Christmas Story on VHS. And it had that feeling. It had that something about it. there's a new element to the VHS experience of, please don't eat this, and please don't let the VCR tear up, because I can't exactly go to Walmart and pick up a VCR anymore, and finding these video cassettes are becoming harder and harder. Now, VHS collecting has become a big thing, especially with B movies and horror movies. Two things, like the horror movies I'm just not into. The B movies, stuff like, I wouldn't consider them horror necessarily, but, things like Hell Comes to Frogtown, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, things of that nature have some value VHS-wise, but most of these very obscure VHS titles, and a lot of which are horror, really have some big value now. And it's becoming a culture of collecting, much like vinyl. Nowhere near to the level of vinyl, or with the staying power that vinyl's had all these years. VHS very much went underground for a long time, way underground, much further underground than vinyl went. But collecting those things, because DVD collecting now is starting to be more of a thing now, as it's starting to phase out. And I can remember going to Walmart at the height of DVD, or to Sam Goody, or not Sam Goody, but Best Buy, or something of that nature, and just the sheer number of DVDs and stuff, and you're starting to not see that. When I go to a mall and they've got a FYE or something like that, and I'll look and see, okay, there's still some DVDs there, but that medium is slowly phasing out. But it may become more of a collecting thing quicker than the VHS did. But I've heard of little stores popping up here and there that deal in collectible VHS. And again, I buy them anytime I'm out. I see them. There's no great value in them. I'm not reselling unless I find something that I've already got, and then I may stick it on eBay. Who knows? One day I may start reselling. Maybe something I want to get into. But VHS, just, I don't know. It's a cherished part of my childhood, and this past weekend reminded me of that, and reminded me of that difference in feeling of watching a VHS and watching, say, a DVD or something of that nature. It's unique, and it's definitely different, And I don't know. In today's modern age, could we have Toxic Avenger? Could we have Samurai Cop? Could we have American Ninja 1, 2, 3, or 4? Could we have the Wraith? Could we have a lot of the entertainment in today's, and maybe we do, and I'm just not experiencing it because of a lack of connection somewhere. But it seems like the 80s and VHS just had an experience and a different feel that it's not really replicated in the DVD era. For me, young kids may see that differently. And I've been seeing a lot of things lately. Apparently, there's at least 1 or 2 video stores. I'm sure there's probably more still open. And video rental stores still open in Kentucky. I've seen there's one chain, I believe, has 2 in Kentucky. So, video rental stores are not completely gone yet. There's one last Blockbuster left, I believe, in Washington. But, they are dinosaurs. They're dying. They're just dying slowly. Which makes it even harder for me to explain to my wife why I truly just want to start a video store and rent out cassettes and VCRs and DVDs and things of that nature. But we're gonna, try not to go broke and do that. But it's a dream of mine. It's something I'd like to do. Something I'd really enjoy. In the area I'm in, it's not going to be profitable. Not many things are. But maybe one day, it's something I could do somewhere else. When it becomes such a hip new thing for people to love VCRs and VHS again, I will be prepared for that. But what's your favorite movie you ever went to the video store as a child and rented on VHS? send that to author J Perk. That's author J Perk at gmail.com. Or comment on the YouTube page on this video on Jay Perkins. But what's the favorite VHS you ever rented as a kid? Or what's your favorite format of movie? Do you prefer digital? Do you prefer DVD? But I like these retrocasts. I really do. And I like them so much that I'm going to make you listen to my horrible 80s funk intro on the exit this time. This has been Talk Junkie. Thank you very much for listening to the Retrocast.